Time is just gone 9:58, and this is an important part of the broadcast this morning, an important segment, because this is a problem that we in South Africa are faced with, and we know for a long time we've always when we grow up as students, as learners at schools, we were always encouraged to do one thing is read, and that culture of reading was also inculcated in the home, newspapers, and all of it, whether it was comics. But there's one thing that we did a lot is we just read and we read and we read. Now, just the other day, it was actually quite shocking to even note that over 300 councillors, local councillors in KwaZulu Natal, are functionally cannot do their work for one simple reason is because they are illiterate. They cannot read, they cannot write. And this is the seriousness of the situation. And this is the reason why we're asking the question, if learning to read is not a problem, then what is the problem? And this is the reason why we are talking with the owner and principal at the Emergence Group, Jenny Du Preez. Jenny, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Morning, and
Yes,
morning to you.
Jenny, I've just painted a very brief picture with regard to reading and the problem as far as the lack of reading is concerned in this country. And I'm sure someone like yourself, with your background, you've seen so much over a period of time, and particularly looking at reading specifically. How big, how huge, how massive a problem is this?
Well, I'm working with a COVID catch-up program that I developed after lockdown when children came back to school and we were socially distanced. We had masks on, and there was literally like 2 days a week schooling allowed. And what happened then is that only the most important parts of the curriculum were taught in the few hours that the children were at school. The whole, what we call in the Montessori thing, is the core executive functions uh, just didn't happen. The children couldn't play, they couldn't mix, they couldn't socialize. And if you're taking children in their foundation phase where they had just entered school, which would be your grade R's and your grade ones, they they didn't do anything of the physical side of growing. They were stuck inside, they were isolated, and the neural path that develops automatically in the early years of childhood just didn't develop. So when these children came back to school last year and this year, I'm finding that they are not, they're in grade 4 and 5, or 3, 4, and 5. They cannot hold a pen, they cannot sit still, they have no social skills. They are used to being at home. They have long thumbs from playing with the remotes and having to do their lessons online or homeschool or whatever. But the basic core functions that develop in early childhood did not develop. And that is the basis of reading and writing. We read from our left to our right. We write from the left to the right. Most children in grade 3, 4, and 5 actually don't know which is their left and which is their right. They are so used to only using their thumbs on, what do you call it, digital electronic gadgets. And they're also accustomed to being alone, whereas they've missed out on the entire bonding with other children and working in groups, doing sport. All that is missing. And that is the basis of reading. If you remember our childhood, and I can see you pretty much around my age group, we were out playing. We'd go into school, our parents would help us, but physically we were very, very active. And this generation that's sitting there now in grade 3, 4, and 5 is only starting to be physically active now. All the basic things that they should have done in the past 3 years, they haven't done, and they actually have no clue on how to do it. So reading has suffered completely. You have
Yes,
to actually, yeah, carry on.
obviously, Jenny, at a school level, people who are responsible for educating our children are actually left to deal with the problem. But there is a bigger issue here, and it is not only your responsibility to get these children to start reading or to maintain an interest. There is a bigger problem, and this is a bigger problem in society. You speak about long thumbs. You speak about gadgets. You speak about kids being caught up in with technology. But there is definitely a bigger problem, and I think you and I and speak about being in a similar age group. Because again, you're looking at the home environment. Just how much is the home environment conducive to the well-being of a child, and to set this child on a path where the child would develop a passion for reading, for example.
We have an attitude among parents that I'm paying school fees, so you must look after my child, which our parents didn't have. Um, if you go back to the 80s, there was a sudden worldwide thing where spelling was not important. You just wrote the words as you said them, and that wasn't just in South Africa. That was all over in the English situation. I don't know about other languages, but suddenly education from the 80s forward became write things as they sound. It's not important. And as we've gone into the electronic age now, oh, the computer will spell for you. And for the students themselves actually can't build words. They've missed that entire thing as education has gone away from the personal interaction that you should be doing. You know, in your preschool and early phases of education, children ask questions. They need answers, and parents have been so busy working, and they themselves have been subjected to this strange way of spelling and writing things just as they sound. And English is a language that we've chosen in this country as our medium of education. English is a very complicated thing. You can't write it as it sounds because it makes no sense. It's got it's derived from Greek and Latin and ancient other languages. And as our education and mothers have become more working mothers, parents are now thinking, oh, I pay my fees at the school. The teachers are there to teach my child manners. The teachers are there to handle the entire situation. Things have gone backwards. And in our country in particular, during lockdown, it, that showed up as parents were confined in small spaces, and I mean very small spaces if you think of the number of people in shacks and those kind of things. Um, People were confined with their children, whereas normally they would drop their child off at school at 7 o'clock in the morning and pick them up sometime in the afternoon, or a transporter would drop them at home. They had no interaction with their children. There's aftercare to do homework, and there's someone else to do something else. But uh, your actual lockdown situation put everybody in the same room, and parents suddenly did not know what to do. So we're looking at that at the moment, but we're also looking at the fact that parents found themselves in a situation where they did not know what to do. And that's a result of their education. So it's been a slow degradation of the standards of learning and the standards of spelling.
Yes, but Jenny, just looking at yourself, and with the experience you've had, and this is over a long period of time. At this point in time, the situation is it stands.
Yes.
What are some of the initiatives? What are some of your suggestions? What is what sort of advice would you give to parents, to learners, and also just looking at the education system as a whole?
Well, what my main problem at the moment, having a primary school, is grades 3, 4, and 5. So I can talk about that. What we are doing is when a child enters grade 4, they start doing natural science and physical sciences. They add subjects that are more outdoors, more research, more asking questions, and more developing of skills and retaining knowledge, which they haven't had, they haven't been doing before that. They've been doing mainly language, maths, and life skills if they're lucky. Now, what we are doing is starting them with the sciences where they actually have to explore, not expecting them to read, and then introducing vocabulary and reading into the fun side of research. That's the best I can say at the moment, and it's working. Kids don't want to go home after school. They want to carry on digging into things and looking into pictures and building Lego stuff and various things like the volcano, which is one of the science projects that all the schools do. So at the moment, you've got to encourage, first of all, get them back into the classroom and then realize that you're actually teaching reading. It's not coming naturally like it would have in the early childhood development phase, where the child was growing into and his phases of growth accelerated and accommodated learning to read and learning vocabulary. Once they've missed that stage, it becomes a learning subject. And it's difficult to get older children to sit down and say, I've got to learn something that my baby brother is doing at the same time, and he's doing it easily, and I'm not. And once you explain it and you get going on things that can interest the child in the curriculum, it starts to work. And like I say, we've got children that want to stay. Well, I'm lucky I'm at a community centre. There's sport and there's all sorts of other things, and there's a lot of wide open space. But children don't want to go home. They want to carry on learning, which for me was like a shock. I mean, I couldn't wait to get home from school. And at the moment, I've got kids wanting to stay at school. The other side has been nutrition. We have a food problem. We have a financial problem for feeding our families properly. So once we started making sure that everyone gets a helping of something like either Morvite, EPOP, one of those things every day, the children start after 2 or 3 weeks. You can actually see the physical difference once they're eating something nutritious every day. And parents are unemployed. They can't always afford it. They afford whatever they can. So a feeding scheme at the school and doing things that are of interest, especially in nature and in science, doing the things that they were not allowed to do over the 2 years of lockdown. Then
Well,
introducing the vocabulary of the subjects.
well, Jenny, I wish I had more time. Unfortunately, time is of the essence, but there's just, I know so much that, you can unpack and so much
It's
value
huge.
you can
Yeah.
actually bring to this discussion. It's huge. It's actually massive. And at some point in time, I think we're going to have to revisit this discussion and unpack a lot more issues. And, through your experience, I'm sure there's wonderful advice that you would be able to give to our listeners and our viewers, particularly on the matters of education and these challenges that we are actually faced with.
I do have a website, and I'm busy publishing, getting a booklet ready for publication. We're going through the editing part of it, and it's going to be out on Amazon. But I also have an NPO, and my projects are on all of those things. So listeners can get hold of me, and I will put them on the mailing list and keep them abreast of what we are doing and where they can get more information.
Yes, if you could provide those details, please, Jenny.
My website is www.thestudyzone.co.za. The school is www.linmayermontessori.co.za. And I have an NPO. It's www.caesar-abantwana.org.za. And all the projects are on that. My WhatsApp number is 083 699 0958. So I'm quite happy to receive people and keep them on a mailing list and speak to someone who might need some help.
Brilliant. Well, Jenny, thank you very much. And we trust and hope that people will get in touch with you. But for now, we thank you. We do appreciate you taking time out and being with us right here on Salam Media.
Well, thank you for having me in load shedding. It's been amazing that we stayed online. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Jenny Du Preez with us this morning, owner and principal of the Emergence Group. And with that, we going to be signing off. My stint this morning on News and Views has come to an end. Next up is going to be Juice 25, Sheikh Hamid Al Ajmi. So until we meet tomorrow, once again, from myself and the team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.